right,
I think I'm ready. Okay.
Get that out of the way. Don't trip over anything. All right, so I'm here with my new friend Richard. Hope you're having a good day today.
Not bad.
I want to thank you first of all for agreeing to be filmed and to do this. This is a wonderful thing for you.
Yeah.
You said that you
Glad to
had
help.
a couple experiences with suicide and mental health and things like that. Would you
Yeah.
care to share those?
Well, I don't think there's many people that haven't had some sort of an experience with mental health, people having mental health crises. And I think the thing that always strikes me.
I'll get you to raise that.
Okay.
There you go.
I think the thing that always strikes me is that it always seems like the person that you don't expect is the person that ends up in the position. And I would say the two stories that come to my mind both fit that narrative of people.
Okay.
It's like they felt like they had a lot going for them. They felt popular, successful, all that sort of thing. But you don't know. You never know what's going on.
Right.
Behind closed doors.
Okay, so let's talk about the first experience that you'd like to share.
Yeah. Well, that was a tough one because I was fairly young, and of course when
How old were you?
Well, I was in middle school, so it would be. I don't remember the year for sure. Probably 13.
Okay.
Somewhere in that realm, 13, 14. And I was acquainted with this kid. We'll just call him Jerry. That's not his real name.
Jerry.
Jerry. And I knew Jerry fairly well. He was always a fairly high energy kid.
Yeah.
Seemed to be well liked. I was actually familiar with his entire family. They lived in our neighborhood, not too far from us, maybe a mile.
Okay.
So, and I associated with other members of the family, not so much with him because he was younger.
Yeah.
So we had been acquainted, and to be honest, I felt like he was kind of taking advantage of me a little bit. But he asked for some money. He needed some money for something, and I gave him a loan, and he gave me his student ID as collateral, and that was the last time I saw him. It was maybe a couple days later that he took his own life at a parking lot, and I still had his ID. So that was the part that was really challenging for me, is knowing that I didn't have a chance to give him back his ID.
Yeah.
So, having that memory is not the last memory you want to have of someone.
Right. That's got to be a tough one, especially considering you have a solid reminder of that person all the time right there with you.
Yeah. I always thought, should I give the ID back to the family? I don't know. I never really thought much about that. It was more of a personal experience at that point. I probably should have reached back out to them, but I'm sure it was a tough time for them as well.
How did you kind of move forward after that? Because that's rough. I mean.
Yeah. It was the first experience that I had with someone who had taken their own life, and I think I kind of internalized it, to be honest with you. I don't know that it was ever anything I dealt with from a mental perspective. I think I tried to put it aside
a
little bit, which is probably not the most fruitful way to deal with those things. So it was a memory that held over with me for a while. Like I said, I wasn't close with him.
Right.
But when something like that happens, it kind of changes how you feel about your past relationship with that person, and whether there's always a little bit of a feeling of guilt, or could you have done something to intervene if you had only known that things were.
I could have potentially reached out, or I could have said something, or had those magic words,
or was there
survivor's guilt?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And is there a sign that you missed that's like, oh, I should have caught that, and if I had, could I have been helpful? But then you're at an age where you don't know how helpful you can be, because I don't know, people don't feel like maybe their advice is all that welcome.
Right.
I guess you're a kid and you're talking with other kids, and it's just like, oh, they're not really gonna take me seriously. They're just gonna kind of brush it off, or so you feel awkward even bringing the topic up. So
that's a lot to carry when you're 13.
I don't remember the exact age, but it stuck with me for a while.
So then you said you have another story to talk about that.
Yeah.
A little deeper.
Well, and it's a little more recent, for sure. Yeah, I hate to just bring up bad situations, but those are the ones that stick with you. You know.
Well, hey, you know what? We all carry these different things.
Yeah,
So,
for sure, for sure. So this is a gentleman. Again, I won't use names, and
No.
I don't even need to in this case. But I had worked with him for some time. He had gone off and done different things in his career. I had done the same with mine. We came back together in a working relationship a few years later. To be honest, that particular situation didn't end well,
Right.
from my perspective. But then, we separated again, spent a few more years apart. I actually had a little bit of bitterness about how that relationship ended from my perspective.
Right.
But we had become, before that, I had spent time at his house. We had become probably more than coworkers. I mean, I think we had a little bit of a friendship going. What the events that happened after that kind of changed that relationship. But yeah, just found out a couple weeks ago that he had taken his own life. And it was really even more so out of the blue for him. I mean, had a successful career, a family, kids,
Yeah.
I understand that there may have been some relationship issues with his wife.
Right.
But, again, he was considered to be a prominent influencer
Okay.
in his field. Um,
So it seemed like he was kind of had it all, right? He had the wife, the family, the career, kind of.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And the thing that you never thought of with him was that he was never lacking in confidence. I mean, he
Right.
always seemed like he was so sure of himself that it was almost like it came off a little bit as arrogance.
Right.
That he knows more than everybody else, and he's more than willing to tell you that.
Right.
He was the kind of person that would refer to himself in the third person, and he would quote himself when he was making social posts, as an authority figure,
Right.
talking about his own. He wrote books, he spoke at.
So it almost felt like he was, in a lot of ways, overcompensating in the public realm for what was happening in the private realm.
Well, I never thought of it that way, but that's probably not a bad assessment, that there's a lot more being held behind the scenes.
Right.
And
Trying to make himself feel like he's more prevalent because, inside he's feeling empty, so he keeps pushing that outward to make it.
the bravado,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seemed like in recent years, the bravado had actually only seemed to increase.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was some recent event that brought about his last act, or if it was something that had been building over
Yeah.
time. He was very close with his daughters. I know that. Coached
So
them
our
in
heart
sports
goes
and
out
things
to
like
them, obviously. I mean, the whole family.
Yeah.
Really, like you.
Yeah.
You hurt for them.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes. His two daughters, I want to say the oldest one maybe, I don't know for sure, but 10. And then I think he had another one that was like
geez,
7.
Young.
Yeah. So
Horrible thing.
it's a lot formative years for them. I think that's the one thing that people don't really fully comprehend is the impact that an act like that has on the survivors.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, you can feel sympathy for the person and what they must have been going through that brought them to that point. But there's a much larger network and community of people that feel that impact as well. So it makes you think about how you process things yourself.
Mm-hmm.
As anybody who's ever been through a mental health crisis, I think a lot of people have had issues with bouts of depression and anxiety,
Right.
and how you handle them. And it's like, what kept me from going to that point?
Right.
Because there was times, I'm sure most people have, where they feel some sort of sense of desperation, whether it's the end of a relationship,
Right.
a health concern, whatever, that it's like, well, I don't know if it's worth it anymore, And there's something that says, I'm not going to do that.
So you're encouraging someone to continue, like if someone was struggling and they were looking to potentially hurt themselves in their life, try and find that thing in there to keep you going. Like what is something what's the ripple effect of this act?
Yeah, and I don't know that you think about the ripple effect in the moment. It reminds me of people that commit other crimes of passion, whether they be murder or whatever. I think at the heart of it, I think it does become a very self-centered act where you're not thinking about what it's going to mean to others. if there's a way to communicate that to the person, to say, maybe if things are really bad, think about what your absence would mean
Right.
to them. But again, I don't know that that's top of mind
Well,
for a lot of
no.
people.
Being someone who's attempted suicide themselves, I can tell you that that's not necessarily what's going through your head at the moment.
Yeah.
You're focused on the pain that you're feeling on an internal
And wanting to
basis.
end it. Yeah.
Right. But by looking outward and trying to find, because what happens, I think, at least with me, what happened was you find purpose, you find drive, you find,
Yeah.
one of the reasons I didn't kill myself was because I had pets that no one was going to take care of.
Well,
My love for them is now greater than the pain I feel inside, and I want to make sure they're taken care of.
yeah.
And if you can find that anchor outwards, that can help pull you out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, of course, it could help to have, close relationship with your family members.
Yeah.
Whether it's be your parents or your wife and your children, to understand what an act like that would do to them.
Yeah.
It's like there's a much larger purpose that you have, I guess,
Yes.
than just your own personal
What
issues.
would you encourage someone to do who's thinking about potentially hurting themselves or just struggling in life right now?
I don't know that there's a one size fits all answer.
Absolutely not. That's why I always ask people's opinions.
Yeah. I mean, the first instinct you have when you ask that question is to say, try to reach out to somebody that you trust. But that can be a difficult conversation to have.
100%.
Because, you when you do that, you make yourself very vulnerable. But yeah, if you have relationships, if you have a counseling service available through your workplace, a lot of places do now offer mental health crisis services. There are community resources available as well. If you're part of a faith-based community, that can always be some place to reach out, because to be honest, a lot of people who go into the ministry have a counseling background.
100%.
That's a lot of what they do is talk to people who are in crisis, whether it be with their marriage, their job, or their life itself.
Yeah.
It's a matter of finding some redeeming thing, and to maybe have somebody else be able to point that out to you. It's like, I understand the pain that you're going through, but there's something more. There are people that are depending on you.
Right.
Not to do that as a matter of guilt, but just to realize I'm part of a bigger picture here. I'm not alone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for sharing your stories. It's great. And,
Yeah.
because I know that I've
It's
said this a million times. Us as guys, we're trained not to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to say, hey, you know what?
yeah.
Today I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do about it.
Well, for somebody that's been involved in arts as long as I have, I think it gives you an emotional vulnerability that you're not quite as insular about your feelings, because you share those feelings a lot publicly through whatever performances you do. So that does help me
Great.
as an outlet.
Finding an outlet's important.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yep.
Helps you channel some of that stuff out.
For sure.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah. And for those of you out there that are struggling, remember that 988 is available for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can reach out anytime, and someone who is licensed and prepared to help you will definitely help you through this walk. So thank you again. Appreciate you.
No problem.